Lucas began to wonder if he should move to another planet. He also didn't know if the housing prices on other planets were expensive. He watched helplessly as Leo walked to the wardrobe and took out the clothes from inside. Lucas had saved 2 sets of the president's clothes in total. One set was the one Leo changed out of on the day he drank alcohol, and the other set was the one Leo threw to him when he was afraid he would be cold during a meeting. Leo obviously also remembered and said, "You're really afraid of the cold. You kept burrowing into my arms last night." Lucas was so ashamed that he almost evaporated from the world. Actually, both sets were winter clothes and only one pair of pants could barely be worn. Leo picked up the pants and asked, "Didn't I tell you to throw them away? Why do you still keep them?" Lucas hid under the quilt and said shyly, "They're so expensive. I can't bear to part with them." Leo's eyes flickered and he asked, "Is it just because of that? Why didn't you sell them? You can't wear them anyway." Lucas also intended to sell them at first. He didn't know why he hadn't taken action for a long time. Instead, he took them to a 5-star hotel to have them washed clean and stored them deep in the wardrobe. It was hidden so deep. How was it still discovered? Leo continued, "You didn't do something strange with my clothes, did you? Please spare him." Lucas buried his head deeper and said in a mosquito-like voice, "No. Don't ask anymore." Leo tugged at the corner of his lips. In the end, he didn't press too hard and said, "Didn't you just say you'd get clothes for me?" Only then did Lucas crawl out from under the quilt to find replacement clothes for Leo. His face was flushed all the way through and he didn't dare to look up. After Leo took a shower, he put on the loose t-shirt that Lucas had never worn. His hair hung in front of his forehead and he instantly looked much younger. But as soon as he opened his mouth, he was still the picky president. "The bathroom is incredibly small. I can't even turn around. I'm itching all over after taking a shower. And what kind of clothes are these? They're so childish." Lucas thought to himself that it was Leo's own problem. However, speaking of which, Leo's misophobia had improved a lot. If it were in the past, asking him to take a shower at someone else's house would be worse than him. Lucas also cleaned and groomed himself. Leo took this time to prepare breakfast. The two of them sat at the dining table. Lucas looked at the omelette in front of him, which was delicious in color, aroma, and taste, and he began to feel that it was unreal again. Just then, Leo stood up, took the Mr. Leo doll from the room, and placed it on the dining table. Lucas stammered in fright, "Mr. Leo, what are you doing?" Leo said gravely, "Let it spend some time with the real me." Lucas wanted to crawl under the table. Lucas ate breakfast surrounded by the real and fake Mr. Leos. No matter how delicious the food was, he couldn't taste it. Fortunately, he filled his stomach. Then Leo brought over some pills and asked him to take them. Lucas thought that the president was so good at taking care of people. Thinking of his childhood experience, he increasingly felt that Leo had a hard time. Yesterday, when Leo talked about his own affairs, it seemed like he was exposing his weaknesses. But in Lucas's mind, he became even more powerful. Those past experiences had shaped his current personality. He had flaws, was radical, but at the same time he was tougher and more courageous. Lucas admired the president even more than before. Leo stuffed the water cup into Lucas's hand. The water temperature was just right, neither too cold nor too hot. It was so considerate. Being taken care of by the person he admired, Lucas's heart was almost melting. He was both touched and happy. He looked at Leo and sincerely said, "Mr. Leo, thank you. It's so good that you came." Leo reached out and gently stroked his hair. After a night, Lucas had gotten much better, but he was still sick. His nose was blocked most of the time. Fortunately, it was Saturday today. He could use these 2 days to have a good rest. Leo simply asked Lucas for his computer and prepared to work in the living room. Lucas was confused. "Mr. Leo, aren't you going back?" Leo squinted his eyes. "Are you driving me away?" Lucas waved his hand and said, "Of course not. I'm afraid you'll be uncomfortable staying here." Leo snorted and said, "You're afraid I'll keep discovering your little secrets, right? Do as you like. I don't dare to say anything anymore." So Lucas sniffled, climbed onto the bed and lay down, covering himself with the quilt like an ostrich. As long as he's not embarrassed. It won't be others who are embarrassed. Sigh. Leo leaned against the bedside and used Lucas' computer to handle official business. He rushed back from City N in a hurry and there were still many things to take care of. Later, when Lucas was sober, he simply helped Leo and the two of them worked at home. Lucas sent an email for Leo. After seeing the content inside, he was a little surprised and asked, "Mr. Leo, you're personally dealing with the matters of the R&D department." Leo nodded and said, "For R&D, which is a long-term investment, the earlier it's implemented, the earlier the results can be enjoyed." Lucas pondered for a moment and said, it's still those old problems. It's not easy to implement. No matter what, it's impossible to bypass City's university and Nolan's extensive scientific research circle. Under the pressure of these two forces, it's very difficult for Yaoi to build its own R&D system. Leo also knew this and said, whether it's a university or a research institute, cooperation can only be carried out. To really conduct serious R&D, a strong leader is still needed. Just like the R&D center of the group, the reason why it has achieved frequent results is that Nolan is in charge. Other institutions, such as City's university, only play a role of icing on the cake. Lucas thought it over and said, such people can only be found abroad, right? Leo didn't deny it. But they are even less familiar with the situation abroad. There are many people in the academic circle who are only after fame. It's very difficult to find a technical talent who masters the theoretical frontier and can combine it with the industry. Only then did Lucas realize the value of Nolan. Putting aside his status as the eldest son of the Chin family, his mind and ability would be sought after anywhere. It's so difficult. But there is no word give up in Leo's dictionary. There are quite a few such people in several foreign battery companies. Lucas was taken aback. Mr. Leo, are you planning to poach talent from overseas? Leo just said, let's give it a try. Lucas admired Leo even more. Whether it succeeds or not, no one knows the result without trying. Moreover, it's good to go overseas. It saves you from running into your ex-boyfriend, Leo suddenly said. Secretary Lucas is so charming that your ex-boyfriend can't forget about you and keeps popping up to show his presence from time to time. Lucas touched the tip of his nose and said, I don't know why he keeps haunting me. Leo sneered, the group won't hire him even if it's short of people. Let him give up that idea. If I see him again next time, I'll deal with him. Lucas also knew that the president was just scaring and wouldn't do anything illegal. He blinked innocently and said, sure, I have no objection. Leo looked into Lucas' eyes and made sure there was really no lingering affection in them. Only then did he feel a bit better and turned his attention back to the computer to continue reading emails. Throughout the day, Lucas accompanied Leo at work. Only in the middle, Leo was worried about his health and made him lie on the bed to rest every once in a while. Lucas realized belatedly that this was no different from working in the company on normal days. It was like working overtime in disguise. But strangely enough, he didn't find it annoying. Instead, he even hoped that Leo could stay a little longer. Leo left in the evening. He didn't sleep well all night, being hugged like an octopus, and wasn't used to wearing someone else's clothes. Not to mention this house that was like a snail shell. He had endured for so long simply because he was worried that Lucas would have a fever again. Seeing that the young secretary was recovering, it was time to go back. Remember to take your medicine. There are semi-finished meals in the fridge. Just heat them up simply and remember to eat. Don't catch a cold when you sleep at night. Leo stood at the door and reminded Lucas. Lucas deliberately said, got it, Mom Chin. He glanced at Lucas and said, I hope you'll be fully recovered by Monday and can work hard. Lucas pursed his lips. Truly a capitalist. After Leo left, Lucas returned to his bedroom. Seeing the Mr. Leo doll on the cabinet, he picked it up, hugged it in his arms, jumped onto the bed, and rolled over. He squinted his eyes and said to the doll, you're the best capitalist in the world. The dreamy weekend ended. By Monday, most of Lucas' cold symptoms had disappeared. Except for a slightly hoarse voice, he was fine. He stood at the door of the president's office to greet the president. When he saw Leo coming, he shouted in a strong voice, good morning, Mr. Leo. I wish you a smooth week at work. No matter when or what happened, Leo was always impeccable in the company. He nodded naturally and said, good morning. Just today he asked an extra question, are you feeling better? Lucas straightened his back and replied, report to the president. Thanks to you, I'm almost recovered. Leo was pleased and said, ensuring good health is the key to making further contributions to the company. Lucas was silent for a few seconds and then said, understood, Mr. President. I'll work hard. As his cold got better, Lucas' life and work got back on track again. During this period, he ran into Nolan several times. This time, Lucas took the initiative to avoid him and didn't talk to Mr. Nolan. Since Leo had opened up about his past to him, he should respect Leo's feelings. On the contrary, Nolan always looked over and smiled at Lucas. He still looked as suave as ever, which made Lucas' heart race. It wasn't out of affection but out of fear that Leo might see it and have an emotional breakdown. Family relationships were a sore spot for Leo, so it's better not to touch on them. Fortunately, after discovering two little secrets in Lucas' rental house last time, Leo had been in a good mood. His attitude towards his subordinates had softened again. Everyone said that Mr. Leo had become more tempered as he got older. Many old employees recalled his sarcastic remarks and cold looks in the past and felt a lot of emotion. The merger work of blxin had been progressing. There had been great changes in the personnel and production line structure of Yaoi. Leo retained the production department of alkaline batteries, which was blxin's signature project. The original brand name remained unchanged and the products continued to be sold for a smooth transition. At the same time, the debts of blxin were transferred to Yaoi and Gene Capital intervened with capital injection. During this period, Leo was so busy that he hardly had time to rest. Lucas even found it a bit difficult to keep up with him. Fortunately, there were many assistants in the president's office. Leo arranged for several assistants to work in shifts to ensure the basic rest of his subordinates. Lucas sighed again that the president was a superman. They, who were just assisting, could still catch a breath while Leo was really working non-stop. He needed to have both a strong physical constitution and great mental strength. It was really amazing. One day, Lucas was checking the schedule with Leo in the president's office. He looked at the schedule and said to Leo, "There is an art exhibition on Sunday. It's an invitation from Speed Chairman Mason. It's not very important. How about crossing it off?" Since Lucas specially organized a charity art exhibition for Chairman Mason last time, Chairman Mason has been obsessed with the form of combining art and charity. This time, it's an exhibition of domestic emerging designers. Chairman Mason wants to support several new talents and promote the development of art in our country. Leo has been extremely busy recently. It's better to streamline these social events that have little to do with the company's business. Lucas was also worried about Leo's health, so he made such a suggestion. Leo pondered for a moment and said, "Find some time to go. Just meet Chairman Mason and then leave." The matter of blxin has caused a lot of trouble to Speed this time. Chairman Mason of Speed has already been very accommodating. Since he has sent an invitation, it's still necessary to show up. Lucas thought that since they had decided to go, it would be better to contact Elizabeth in advance. She should know about this event. Leo saw through his thoughts at a glance. "Don't contact your classmate." Lucas. Why? He hadn't even said it out yet. Leo said coldly, "Every time we meet your classmate, there will be a lot of chaos. This time, I just want to have a quiet chat with Chairman Mason and then leave quietly." Thinking carefully, it seemed that it was really the case. Lucas had no way to refute and had to give up the idea of contacting Elizabeth. On the day of the art exhibition, Leo dressed in formal attire according to etiquette and successfully met Chairman Mason. The old fox and the young fox flattered each other and never mentioned the unpleasant things about blxin. They had a very pleasant conversation. Lucas was very familiar with the people in Speed's board office. This time he followed Leo and took the opportunity to maintain the cooperative relationship. The group got along for about half an hour, and then Chairman Mason led his people to explore the art exhibition in depth and communicate with the media. The main purpose of this art exhibition was to support emerging designers, and there were also well-known works on display. It was really quite sincere, but Leo was too busy. Since he had met Chairman Mason, it was time to leave. Lucas was about to call the driver to bring the car over, but was stopped by Leo. "Let's take a stroll," Leo said. Lucas was a bit surprised, but he didn't question Leo's change of itinerary. He accompanied him and wandered in the ocean of art. This exhibition was divided into several areas, including a painting area, a sculpture area, and areas for other forms of works. Leo and Lucas walked slowly, admiring the artworks along the way. After a while, seeing that Leo had no intention of leaving, Lucas finally couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Leo, how long are you going to stay here?" Leo said, "Can't I stay a little longer?" "That's not what I meant." Lucas wondered, "But you have other arrangements next." It was agreed before that they would leave after meeting Chairman Mason. Leo said, "Those aren't urgent." His expression was calm and his tone was gentle. "I want you to accompany me more." Lucas was stunned for a moment and felt that what the president said was a bit ambiguous. Lucas thought he might be overthinking. The president just simply wanted to look at the artworks more. He smiled at Leo and said, "Okay, Mr. Leo." The two walked to the sculpture area. Leo stopped in front of a work with an indistinguishable shape and asked Lucas, "Is this nice?" Lucas said seriously. This work has a simple and iconic style. It shapes an extremely specific outline through seemingly disordered lines. Under the multiple influences of the lighting environment and the human eye, it shows strong vitality and expresses exuberant emotions and profound appeal. Leo stared at him and asked again, I'm just asking if you think it's nice. Lucas was silent for a moment and finally confessed honestly, I don't understand it. Maybe it's nice. Leo snorted. Where did you learn all that nonsense just now? Lucas said aggrievedly. How can you call it nonsense? I crammed on art appreciation words for a long time yesterday. If Chairman Mason dragged us to the exhibition today and you couldn't tell whether it was good or bad, I would have to step in and at least have something to say so as not to let the atmosphere turn cold. Leo asked with a sidelong glance. How do you know I can't tell whether it's good or bad? Lucas quickly admitted his mistake. Mr. Leo is naturally well versed in ancient and modern knowledge and has a wide range of learning. I'm just taking precautions. Leo didn't take his flattering words seriously and just said, You're well prepared. That's right. Lucas straightened his back. I always do advanced research work every time to avoid embarrassing our president's office. Leo said, You've made progress now. You used to be muddled and always looked confused. Lucas defended himself. I was also very serious before. Okay? I just didn't understand the situation and took some detours. As the two walked, they chatted and appreciated the artworks beside them, feeling relaxed. Lucas joked, Mr. Leo, accompanying you to visit the exhibition counts as overtime. You have to settle my salary for me. Leo asked, Aren't you happy to walk with me? Lucas thought for a while and answered honestly, Happy. During the weekend, the two strolled leisurely in the exhibition hall. It felt completely different from when they were working. Lucas even didn't want Leo to move on to the next itinerary and wanted to stay here with Leo for a while longer. Leo said indifferently, I'm also happy, so it doesn't count as overtime. This counts as a break, and there's no salary. Lucas pouted, pretending to complain, but actually knowing it was just a joke. The two were walking slowly, and the atmosphere was just right when suddenly a person walked towards them. Seeing the person coming, Leo's expression changed slightly, while Lucas' eyes lit up and he greeted actively, Elizabeth! Elizabeth was wearing an intellectual suit and walked over with a smile, saying, Isn't this our handsome school hunk? She turned to Leo. Hello, Mr. Leo. Leo nodded, glanced at Lucas, and asked with his eyes if it was him who called her here. Lucas shook his head gently. I'm innocent. I didn't do it. However, for such a large art exhibition, it was normal for Elizabeth, who was in this field, to appear. Lucas exchanged a few words with his old classmate. Elizabeth looked at Leo curiously, wondering about their relationship, and offered to show them around, but was rejected by Lucas. Leo didn't seem to like Elizabeth, although it was a pity he gave up. Besides, Lucas subconsciously hoped that he and Leo could stroll around alone and didn't want anyone to disturb them. Leo didn't dislike Lucas' classmate either, but just thought it was a bit of a mystery. As long as this old classmate appeared, some strange people would surely be attracted, and then some strange things would happen. Leo just wanted to spend an ordinary weekend with Lucas and didn't want to encounter any weirdos for the time being. But some things can't stand being talked about. The more you don't want them to happen, the more likely they are to occur. After Lucas exchanged a few words with Elizabeth and was about to leave, two familiar faces appeared across the way. It turned out to be Nolan and Thomas. The two were very close, walking side by side. Lucas was stunned by this combination. How could these two show up together? Leo clearly didn't expect it either and frowned. When Nolan saw his younger brother and his secretary, he also paused for a moment. Then a familiar smile appeared on his lips as he led Thomas towards Leo and the others. A strange look flashed across Thomas' eyes. Since the incident at Ray's restaurant last time, Thomas and Lucas hadn't seen each other again. Lucas had accepted the apology and forgotten about this person. Now that they met again, Thomas looked strange, seemingly not as carefree as Lucas. The four of them stood facing each other, with Elizabeth standing in the middle, stunned and not knowing how to react. No one said a word. Thomas smiled first. Just as he was about to speak, Lucas suddenly didn't want to let him take the initiative. He was afraid that Thomas would say something shockingly sanctimonious again. So, Lucas acted before he thought. He raised his hand and directly wrapped it around Leo's arm. Thomas. Again, Nolan raised his eyebrows. Lucas felt a bit embarrassed. He always had an inexplicable desire to win whenever he saw Thomas, probably due to the pride of a handsome man. This time, Leo also raised his arm and pulled Lucas' hand in his elbow closer, making him hold on tighter. Lucas didn't expect Leo to cooperate so well. He looked at Leo, and Leo patted the back of his hand reassuringly, then held his hand affectionately, looking calm. Only then did Lucas calm down. As a subordinate, he took the initiative to greet Nolan. Mr. Nolan. Looking at their intertwined hands, Nolan said with a smile, "What a coincidence." Leo said expressionlessly, "It's really a coincidence." Seeing Lucas and Leo openly showing their affection for each other, Thomas felt a bit envious. He moved closer to Nolan, raising his arm and looking eager. Lucas widened his eyes. This guy wouldn't try to put his arm around Nolan, would he? Thomas should not have broken up with Benjamin. What on earth is he doing? Mr. Nolan, too. Why is he walking with such a person? Lucas stared at Thomas. In the end, Thomas got cold feet and didn't touch Nolan. Instead, he flipped his hair and chimed in, "I didn't expect to run into an acquaintance here." Only then did Nolan realize something and ask Thomas, "Do you know each other?" Thomas still looked as gentle and harmless as ever. He said ambiguously, "Not really acquainted. There's a bit of a connection." At this time, Lucas smiled and said, "It's not a connection. It's a fateful feud." He asked Thomas, "How's your relationship with my ex-boyfriend?" Thomas didn't expect him to expose it voluntarily. His facial expression froze for a moment and then he mumbled, "Don't worry about it." Nolan knew about Benjamin. Hearing Lucas's words, he immediately understood and gave Thomas a playful look. Lucas continued, "It seems you're getting along well with Benjamin. Then I'm relieved." He disliked Thomas's philandering ways. He made his point and didn't want to talk to Nolan in front of Leo. He quietly leaned against Leo and fell silent. Leo was also too lazy to deal with these oddballs. He said to Nolan, "Don't pick up trash." Although he had a bad relationship with Nolan, he didn't want to see someone from the Chin family getting involved with a morally corrupt mistress. Thomas's face turned completely ugly. After Leo said that, he took Lucas and left. Elizabeth looked around, not knowing what to do. She just casually said a few words to Thomas and then found an opportunity to slip away. Thomas looked at Elizabeth thoughtfully. Does she know Lucas? Thomas wasn't stupid. He instantly figured out some things, and his hatred for Lucas deepened even more. After he apologized to Lucas in the restaurant that time, he couldn't swallow his pride, but he had no way to deal with Lucas, who asked Lucas to get in with Leo. Thomas even found Benjamin unpleasant to look at, but he didn't break up with Benjamin. Firstly, he was busy with his career and had no time to find someone else. Secondly, he wanted to keep Benjamin around. Maybe it could still anger Lucas. Recently, Benjamin finally became useful. Benjamin wanted to join the cooperation team of Bangtian Group. After learning that Mr. Nolan from the group's R&D Center wanted to buy several paintings as decorations, he approached Thomas, hoping to pick a good painting through Thomas and give it to Nolan as a bribe. Listening to Benjamin's plan, Thomas thought the opportunity had come. Who was Nolan? He was Leo's older brother. If he could get to know Nolan, would he still have to watch Leo's face? Thomas comforted Benjamin and asked him to leave this matter to him. When Nolan came to the art gallery to look at paintings, he struck up a conversation with Nolan. He successfully revealed his identity as the son of the president of S-City University, and sure enough, it caught Nolan's attention. Then he introduced himself as a new wave designer. Under the guise of helping Nolan pick paintings, he got the contact information of the eldest son of the Chin family and had several private exchanges with Nolan. This time, Thomas specially invited Nolan to visit the art exhibition. He accompanied Nolan and showed his works to him. Unexpectedly, he met Lucas and Leo. He never told Nolan about his relationship with Benjamin from beginning to end, but today it was exposed by Lucas. Thomas gritted his teeth secretly, but his face still looked gentle. Looking at Nolan, he said innocently, "Mr. Nolan, do you know Benjamin?" Nolan also smiled and said, "I've met him a few times. He wants to cooperate with our R&D center team." Thomas showed a distressed look and said, "Benjamin is good in every aspect, but there is still a lot of room for improvement in academics. My father often says he is not motivated, and I can't do anything about it." Hearing him secretly belittle Benjamin, Nolan calmly lifted his eyelids and said, "We have our own standards and considerations when choosing cooperation partners." Thomas nodded. Of course. Since they were talking about R&D, Thomas took over the topic and said, "Just now I saw Mr. Leo from Shearway Technology. I heard that he is looking for a R&D leader everywhere and has conducted research at S-City University several times." Nolan didn't comment and just replied with an Thomas continued, "Not only universities, but he has also sent people to many scientific research institutions. It seems that he is determined to set up his own scientific research team." The relationship between Leo and Nolan can be found out by anyone with a bit of money in the family. Before, Shearway was stuck with the charging technology. Everyone in the battery research field knows about it. At that time, Benjamin even told this incident to Thomas as a joke. Although Thomas doesn't understand the technical details, he still understands the intrigues in business. He knows that Nolan and Leo are in opposition. He thought the two were competing for the group's inheritance. He wants to help Nolan suppress Leo. That day at Ray Restaurant, Leo forced him to apologize to Lucas, so he also hates Leo. Mr. Leo has even set his sights abroad. Thomas continued to get closer to Nolan. The distance between the two reached a dangerous level. He said to Nolan in a soft and cloying voice, "But it doesn't matter, whether it's at home or abroad. As long as Shearway Technology is still in City S, he won't be able to find useful talents." Thomas whispered, "I can ask my dad to arrange everything. The scientific research circle is the most particular about favors and connections." Hindering Leo can not only vent his anger but also please Nolan. Why not do it? Thomas looked at Nolan with tender and lingering eyes, full of moisture. He knew he looked pitiful and cute, which could easily arouse others' protective instincts. He looked at Nolan in a gentle and indecisive way, gentle, intelligent, and considerate. After hearing what he said, the smile on Nolan's lips never disappeared. He said, "You're so sweet." Thomas shyly lowered his eyes. Nolan doesn't seem to reject him. Thomas is confident that he can make Nolan take a fancy to him, just like he snatched Benjamin from Lucas back then. As for Benjamin, he's a bit of an eyesore at this time. It wasn't until they walked out of the exhibition area that day that Leo let go of Lucas' hand. Both of them felt unlucky and had no mood to stroll around. They directly moved on to the next item on the itinerary. After getting home, Lucas received an inquiry from Elizabeth. "Are you really just in an ordinary relationship with your boss?" Elizabeth was very confused. Lucas replied firmly, "No, we're just ordinary superior and subordinate." Elizabeth continued to ask, "Then why did he touch your hand so naturally?" This isn't the first time she's had such a question. It's not that she doesn't believe Lucas, but she can't deceive her own eyes. "Lucas, he was just cooperating with me in acting." "Then your boss has really good acting." "He acted so real that I almost believed it." Lucas thought to himself that after all, he was the son of a movie queen, so he must have some acting. He skipped over this topic and asked Elizabeth about the situation between Thomas and Benjamin. Elizabeth didn't know much either, but she was sure that the two hadn't really broken up. As for how Thomas got involved with Nolan, she had no idea. Thinking of the painting in Nolan's office, Lucas could guess the general situation and also understood that Thomas must have feelings for Nolan. Lucas had experienced Thomas's shamelessness before. The key was what Nolan would do. This matter always bothered Lucas. He even discussed it with Leo once. Leo didn't take it seriously and just said, Nolan doesn't have the hobby of picking up trash. Lucas could only put this matter aside for the time being. But unexpectedly, the matter soon took a new turn. That day, as usual, he was on his way home from the company. When he reached his doorstep, he suddenly saw a person standing by the roadside green belt. When that person saw Lucas, he walked out and blocked his way. Lucas said irritably, "You're really annoying. I don't want to see you at all." Benjamin looked dejected and haggard. Looking at Lucas, he said in a low voice, "But I want to see you." There was no need to entangle with a crazy person. He walked around Benjamin and continued walking forward. Benjamin continued to block his way and told him, "I'm single now." Lucas stopped. Remembering seeing Thomas and Nolan at the art exhibition that day, he figured out the whole story within a few seconds. He blinked at the haggard Benjamin. Then he burst out laughing and said, "You were dumped by Thomas, right?" Benjamin's face immediately turned ugly. Lucas could tell that he was right and gloated, "So it's true." He repeated, "You were dumped by Thomas." Benjamin got angry and only then remembered to deny it. "No, we broke up amicably." Lucas said, "Come on, the son of the school principal, would you really be willing to break up?" Benjamin admitted that Lucas knew him very well. This kind of understanding gave him hope. He said, "Thomas and I are in the past. Now I'm here to inform you." Lucas interrupted him, "To inform me to watch the joke of you being dumped?" Benjamin, "No, I just want to tell you that although I've been with Thomas, there's still a place for you in my heart." Lucas looked at him as if he were a dead man. This look reminded Benjamin of Leo, which he didn't like at all. He said anxiously, "Although I've been with Thomas for a long time, it can't compare to the 3 months I spent with you." Lucas put away his smile and looked serious. "You're so disgusting. You come to me after being dumped by someone else? Do you take me for a garbage recycling station?" He waved his hand impatiently. "Get out of here. I already have a boyfriend." Benjamin said, "Can you break up with him?" Lucas never expected this guy to say such a shameless thing. He was immediately enraged, raised his fist and said fiercely, "If you keep blabbering, I'll break your nose." Benjamin took a step back. Lucas sneered, "You're not even a match for his little toe. You want me to break up with him? Dream on. I'll never leave him even if I die. I'm different from you fickle scumbags." Lucas couldn't believe that Benjamin had the nerve to come back to him. He felt that he had been blind back then. He wondered how to get Benjamin to leave quickly, so he revealed something to provoke him. "Do you know why you were dumped by Thomas? You were cheated on this time." Benjamin was stunned. Seeing his expression, Lucas knew that he didn't know about Nolan. Probably Thomas had used some tricks to hide it from Benjamin when they broke up. Lucas said with a sneer, "Let me make it clear to you. Thomas's has taken a fancy to someone else, so he dumped you." Benjamin blurted out, "Impossible. Thomas's said his father didn't agree to our relationship, so he had to break up with me reluctantly." Lucas said, "You're so stupid. If he didn't agree, why didn't he say so earlier? Would he have let you take advantage of the principal's resources for so long? Those are just excuses. After dumping you, he can take back the resources he gave you and you can't go to the principal anymore. He can wash his hands of everything." After hearing what Lucas said, Benjamin finally noticed something was wrong. He frowned and said hesitantly, "Is Thomas really having an affair with someone else?" Lucas wasn't sure about the relationship between Thomas and Nolan, but it was certain that Thomas had feelings for Nolan. So he followed Benjamin's words and said, "Anyway, when he was still with you, his heart was already with someone else." Lucas laughed. "What goes around comes around. You've been cheated on, idiot." Benjamin's face turned extremely ugly. No wonder Thomas has been acting so strange lately. He would hold his phone and chat with someone, smiling as he chatted. When Benjamin asked, Thomas said he was discussing a contract. Who smiles like a flower when discussing a contract? It's one thing that he still has Lucas in his heart, but it's another thing that Thomas is having an affair with someone else. He can't tolerate being deceived. Benjamin is such a double-standard person. He angrily asked, "Lucas, how do you know? Who is the other person?" Lucas smiled and said, "I just know. The other person is more powerful than you. Both in terms of social status and wealth, he is far above you. You can't catch up even if you work hard for a lifetime." Benjamin got even angrier after hearing this. At the same time, he didn't forget to boost himself. "I still have a lot of room for improvement and will have a bright future." He turned around and was about to leave, wanting to go to Thomas to get to the bottom of it. But he also couldn't let go of Lucas and said, "I'll come to see you in a few days. Think about my proposal. Those 3 months we were together were so harmonious. Don't you miss it?" Lucas only said one word, get out. That day, Lucas drove Benjamin away and Benjamin didn't appear again. He should have gone to confront Thomas. Lucas thought that Benjamin was no match for Thomas, so he began to think about how to add fuel to the fire and let the dogs fight each other. So he took Benjamin out of the blacklist and deliberately exaggerated and sent a message. Do you know how I found out that Thomas was having an affair? That day I ran into Thomas and that man. They were very intimate. I asked Thomas in front of him, where's Benjamin? Thomas stammered. He looked so guilty. That man is very handsome. No wonder Thomas was attracted to him. Thomas was so afraid that the man would dislike him that he didn't even dare to mention your name. Lucas fabricated stories on the basis of facts. After talking a lot, he blocked Benjamin again. Let them bite each other. It would be best if neither of them ever appeared in front of him again. Unfortunately, the peaceful days didn't last long. Benjamin showed up near Lucas's house again. As soon as Benjamin saw Lucas, he chased after him and asked, who is Thomas having an affair with? Lucas was annoyed and mocked him, haven't you figured it out yet? Just mentioning this made Benjamin angry. He went to Thomas to get an explanation. Thomas deflected the issue. As they talked, Thomas brought the topic to the fact that they had lost their feelings after being together for a long time. Moreover, Thomas pointed out that he still missed Lucas. In the end, it seemed that the breakup was all his fault. The more Thomas behaved like this, the more Benjamin was certain that there must be something fishy going on, but he just couldn't figure out who was involved. Benjamin said, so I'm here to ask you. Lucas ignored him and said, I won't tell you. It'll drive you crazy. Don't be so smug. When you're dumped by the CEO, you'll come to me crying. Benjamin couldn't help but say, how could there be such a shameless person in the world? Lucas looked gloomy and said, I won't come to you and I won't break up with the CEO. He shook off Benjamin and went home. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. This scumbag was not only as annoying as chewing gum, but also cursed him and Leo. Even though his relationship with Leo was fake, he wouldn't allow others to slander it. So Lucas did something. He took Benjamin out of the blacklist again and sent a long message. Mr. Leo is really good to me. He accompanies me whenever he has time. He was afraid I'd be bored, so he bought a whole set of gaming equipment for me at home. I can play however I want. There are so many limited edition games that you can't even buy on the market. Mr. Leo's house is huge. Do you know what a single family house is? There are countless rooms. I can live in any room I want. I'm always worried about which room to choose. Last time I was sick, Mr. Leo was extremely worried. He asked about my well-being and fed me medicine himself. He stayed with me without sleep until I recovered. I was so touched. Since Benjamin wanted him to break up, he just wouldn't. Moreover, he would show off his relationship to Benjamin. Lucas would make up a paragraph and send it, then take Benjamin out of the blacklist every now and then to give him a taste of it and then put him back in the blacklist again. Sometimes he would talk about Thomas and his cheating partner, and sometimes he would show off his affection with Benjamin. It was a pity that he only saw Thomas and Nolan once, so the material was limited. Later, he had a hard time making things up. Most of the time, he talked about him and Leo, saying how good Leo was to him and how excellent Leo was, telling Benjamin not to have unrealistic fantasies. After that, Lucas blocked Benjamin again. He repeated this over and over again and enjoyed it. Later, he even got a bit addicted. He felt it wasn't enough and needed more exciting material, preferably something that would make Benjamin jealous and angry. Lucas thought for a while. During his spare time, he went up to Leo and looked at the CEO eagerly. Leo looked up warily and asked, what are you doing? Lucas smiled sheepishly and said, Mr. Leo, there's something I need your help with. Seeing him like this, Leo had an intuition that it was no good and asked, what's the matter? Lucas blinked his eyes and said in a creepy voice, it's very simple. Just promise me. Leo was both shocked and intrigued by him and said, what on earth is it? Lucas said directly, stretch out your hand. Leo suspiciously stretched out his hand and Lucas immediately placed his paw on it. The two held hands tightly, their fingers intertwined intimately. Leo froze. Lucas took out his phone with his other hand, struggled to turn on the camera, and took a photo of their clasped hands. All right, Lucas said contentedly. Leo adjusted his disordered heartbeat and asked, what do you want this kind of photo for? Lucas said mysteriously, to show our affection and piss off some people. Sure enough, he would only take the initiative when he was competitive. Leo didn't ask any more questions. He lowered his eyes, hiding the look in them, and said, don't go too far. Lucas said, I know. I have my own measure. In fact, Lucas had no sense of measure. He even felt that it wasn't enough to relieve his anger. After returning home at night, he sent the photo of their intertwined fingers to Benjamin and added a sour caption under the picture, "Together forever." This time, Benjamin caught Lucas. Before he blocked him, he quickly sent a message. "So what? He's your boss and so rich. You two are worlds apart. He's just playing with you now. He'll naturally abandon you when he gets bored." Suddenly, a message came over. Lucas suspected that Benjamin had written it in advance and just copied and pasted it. Lucas immediately replied, "Who said that? He won't get bored. He's serious about me." Benjamin asked, "Will he marry you? He's rich and can have anyone he wants. Will he be serious about you? His family is so complicated. Will they accept you a man?" Lucas was stunned by Benjamin's series of questions, and then the blood rushed to his head instantly. The always strong-willed secretary Lucas said, "Of course he will. He and his family are very nice to me. We're going to get engaged soon. From now on, he's not just my boyfriend, but my fiancé." Before Benjamin could reply, he found himself blocked again. Lucas angrily blocked Benjamin. He felt a bit good about it, but also a bit regretful. Was it a bit too much to fabricate the story about having a fiancé? He nervously looked at the Mr. Leo doll on the cabinet. Since Leo came last time, his feelings towards this doll had become more complicated. He always felt that Leo was looking at him through the doll's eyes. Lucas walked to the doll and seriously looked at the photo of Leo on the doll's head and said, "Mr. Leo, you won't blame me for talking nonsense, right?" After thinking for a while, he added, "Actually, it's not entirely nonsense. According to your affectionate persona, if we keep getting along, you'll definitely propose to me, right?" Lucas knew he was lying, but somehow his face got hot. He touched his nose and bluffed, "Anyway, that's how it is. Please, Mr. Leo, just act as my fiancé for now." Lucas thought he had vented enough, so he left Benjamin in the blacklist and didn't unblock him. Most of the merger work of blxin has been completed. All the signs of blxin's company and factory have been removed and replaced with the title of Shearway. Things went smoothly with blxin, but the R&D work didn't go as well. Shearway extended invitations to several promising talents, but none of them accepted. Some of them were doing well in academic research and saw no need to switch to technology. Others were in charge of large enterprises with stable jobs and high incomes, so there was no need for them to change jobs. The R&D department incorporated the staff from blxin. Except for the charging module part, it didn't bring any benefits. Instead, conflicts arose due to different research directions. Lucas couldn't help but wonder how the R&D center of the group coordinated different research directions. The R&D center controlled the technology of the entire group. With so many companies and fields, everything was in good order while there was always innovation. Nolan was really amazing. Shearway's repeated setbacks in R&D made Lucas realize Nolan's ability. If Nolan didn't focus on scientific research but instead managed a company, would the situation be different? If even Lucas thought so, not to mention others. Leo's pressure increased invisibly. Lucas could only do his best to support the president. He handled administrative affairs for the president so that the president wouldn't have to worry about trivial matters. For Leo, Lucas as a secretary was currently in the most useful state. He could handle all matters well. Many instructions didn't need to be repeated and he could arrange things in advance. At the same time, his ability was just right, meeting the requirements of the position without being overly outstanding. Such a secretary was most favored by superiors. Leo inevitably had a leadership mentality and hoped that Lucas could always stay like this. However, he also knew that Lucas was young and had strong learning ability. His ability would soon be further improved, and one day the secretary position would no longer satisfy him. Leo both anticipates and fears that day, hoping Lucas can stay with him for a longer time. Leo looks at Lucas. Lucas is helping him organize documents. Sensing the president's gaze, he looks up and asks with a smile, "Is there anything, Mr. Leo?" Leo says calmly, "It's nothing. You can leave work early." Lucas says with a smile, "Thank you, Mr. Leo." After finishing the work at hand, he doesn't leave immediately but stands there looking a bit hesitant. Leo asks, "What's wrong?" Lucas says, "Is it time for my side job now?" Leo raises his eyebrows. Once Lucas switches to the side job mode, he always has all kinds of amazing moves. Leo stares fixedly at Lucas, wondering what he's going to do this time. As a result, after thinking for a moment, Lucas says, "Forget it. It's nothing. Mr. Leo, I'll leave first." After saying that, he runs away in a flash. Leo looks at his back, lost in thought. These days, Benjamin has been on Lucas's blacklist. He's not idle either. Several times he has blocked Lucas near his home wanting to rekindle their relationship. If it weren't for the fact that beating someone is illegal, Lucas would have beaten this shameless guy up long ago. Lucas can only warn Benjamin, if you keep pestering me, I'll call the police. Benjamin says righteously, this road isn't only for you. I come here for a walk in my free time. What's wrong with chatting with you when I happen to meet you? This guy is simply unreasonable. Lucas says, then I'll ask Mr. Leo to deal with you. He knows that Benjamin is afraid of Leo and often uses Leo to scare people. It worked at first, but there's only thunder but no rain. After saying it so many times and Benjamin never seeing Leo appear, he's not afraid anymore. You always say how nice your president is to you, but I've never seen him send you off. Benjamin is very skeptical. It's all you showing off your relationship unilaterally. Aren't you being deceived by a rich man? Lucas gets annoyed when he sees Benjamin looking like he wants to save him. He doesn't want to explain and shakes him off before going home. At least Benjamin still has a sense of shame. He only blocks people on the way home from work and won't chase Lucas home, allowing Lucas to catch a break. But this can't go on like this all the time. Lucas wants to ask Leo to drive him home once so as to scare off the stalker. Lucas still couldn't bring himself to speak up today. During this period, the president has been extremely busy and visibly exhausted. Why bother him with such a trivial matter? Lucas decides that if he meets Benjamin again, he'll call the police on the spot regardless. He left work in a foul mood. When he parked his car and walked out of the garage, he indeed saw Benjamin's figure. He took out his phone and was about to dial 110. At this time, another car glided over from the main road of the community and stopped beside him. Lucas looked at the car in surprise. The window slowly rolled down and Leo's face appeared in Lucas's sight. Leo didn't bring a driver and was driving the car himself. He looked at Lucas through the window, pointed at Benjamin over there, and said coldly, "This is what you call nothing?" Benjamin was so scared when he saw Leo that he didn't dare to show his face and hid behind the green belt. Lucas lowered his head and whispered, "Just a fly. Get in the car," Leo said. Lucas walked around to the passenger side and obediently got in the car. Benjamin watched helplessly as the luxury car drove away in front of him. He didn't even dare to show his face, afraid that Leo would really kill him. After a while, his phone rang with a notification sound. Lucas took him out of the blacklist again. "Lucas, I'm going to stay at the mansion tonight. Which room should I stay in today? It's so troublesome." Sitting in Leo's car, Lucas lowered his head and sent a taunting message to Benjamin. After sending it, he blocked Benjamin again. After finishing these things, he let out a sigh of relief. Only then did he realize that Leo had been silent all the time. He turned to Leo and said, "Mr. Leo, thank you." Leo looked a bit cold and concentrated on driving. After a while, he said, "If that scumbag has been pestering you, why didn't you tell me?" Lucas touched his nose and said, "You've been so busy recently. I thought I could handle it myself." Leo looked at the road ahead and didn't say anything more. Lucas noticed that Leo was angry, but he didn't know why. It always seemed to be like this between them. Lucas often couldn't figure out what Leo was thinking. It was the same with Nolan's incident last time, and it's the same now. Thinking carefully, maybe his cleanliness and territorial sense flared up again. Lucas felt a bit guilty. He knew very well that Leo didn't like having his eyes polluted by trash, yet he still let the president see Benjamin. He lowered his head and played with his phone, whispering, "Mr. Leo, it's enough to drive around once. That guy should have left. Please take me back." After thinking for a while, he changed his words, "No need to trouble yourself. Just pull over by the roadside. I can go home by myself." After saying that, he nervously looked at Leo. Leo pursed his lips and said, "I'm not angry with you. I'm angry with myself." He was angry with himself for not being worthy of Lucas's trust. Lucas didn't turn to him for help right away, which made him feel a bit frustrated. Instead of taking a detour or going back as Lucas suggested, Leo drove the car directly to Yunting Mansion. Lucas got out of the car and stared at Leo with wide, open eyes. Leo said, "Don't go back. I'll deal with that scumbag." Lucas obediently nodded. Lucas had stayed at Yunting Mansion after being discharged from the hospital last time after the kidnapping. He was quite familiar with the place. Without being coy, he followed Leo into the mansion. "It's quite late today. There isn't enough time to prepare a meal. Is it okay to have something simple?" Leo asked. Lucas quickly said, "Sure, it doesn't have to be too complicated." He looked at the time. It was really late. "How about we order takeout?" "No need. I'll make fried rice." Lucas smiled and said, "Fried rice is great. I love egg fried rice." Leo's expression finally softened. He told Lucas to go and have fun on his own, then rolled up his sleeves and entered the kitchen. Instead of going to the audio-visual room to play games, Lucas leaned on the sofa in the hall and looked at his phone. Soon, Leo finished making dinner. Although it was said to be a simple meal, the dinner was much more sumptuous than egg-fried rice. The golden grains of rice were wrapped with shredded meat and corn kernels. The aroma of eggs and rice mingled with the fragrance of oil, which made one's mouth water just by smelling it. Lucas quickly sat down at the dining table and blurted out what was in his heart. "Mr. Leo, the future wife of the president will be so lucky. Leo is rich, handsome, and so virtuous. He takes care of people super attentively and patiently. Except for having a bit of a temper and a sharp tongue, he is almost a perfect partner. Moreover, Leo's temper has been much more restrained than before, and he rarely scolds people anymore. He almost has no flaws." Hearing what Lucas said, Leo also sat down and calmly asked, "Wife? What should the wife of the president be like?" Lucas thought to himself that if you don't know, how can I know? But he still gave an answer that he had always kept in mind, a Miss Universe? Leo told Lucas to start eating. Lucas happily took a bite of the fried rice and loudly praised, "Delicious." Leo continued on the previous topic, "She doesn't have to be a Miss Universe. As long as she is generally smart and occasionally a bit silly and likes the food I cook, that's enough." Lucas blinked. It seemed that these requirements were not very high, but rather down to earth. If that's all, the president will soon find his wife. Thinking of this, Lucas felt a little uncomfortable. He couldn't help but say, "These requirements are too low. In my heart, only a Miss Universe is worthy of you." Leo glanced at him and said, "Even if you flatter me indirectly, I won't appreciate it." While eating, Lucas whispered, "I really think so." After dinner, Leo still didn't let Lucas clean up. He sent him to the audio-visual room. After a while, Leo joined Lucas in the game. They played a game together, and it was obvious that neither of them was in the right state. Leo put down the controller and finally said what he had been holding back for a long time, "You can come to me with any problems in the future. It doesn't have to be an insoluble problem. As long as it's something that troubles you or makes you unhappy, I can handle it." Lucas nodded. "I understand, Mr. Leo." Although Lucas still couldn't quite understand what made the president angry, since the president had said so, he didn't stand on ceremony. "Then please, Mr. Leo, get rid of Benjamin." He made a throat-slitting gesture which successfully made Leo twitch the corner of his lips. Seeing Leo relax, Lucas let out a big sigh. "Why am I so unlucky? The only relationship I've ever had was with such a weirdo. It's given me a psychological shadow and I'm too scared to fall in love again." Leo thought to himself that this wouldn't do. He said seriously, "That scumbag was just a prelude. There will be better people waiting for you later." Lucas asked suspiciously, "Really?" Leo nodded. "Really, there definitely will be." Lucas grinned. "The president is always right. I'll believe whatever you say." The atmosphere between the two returned to calm. Lucas felt that he and Leo were getting more and more comfortable with each other in private. It was great that they had cleared the air in just a few hours this time. Seeing Lucas smile, Leo finally relaxed. Lucas had been on tenterhooks ever since he got in the car. Every time Leo saw him acting so afraid of him, it made him uncomfortable. He didn't want Lucas to be afraid of him. He wanted Lucas to open up to him step by step and rely on him without reservation. Judging from the current situation, it was a long-term task. Leo didn't try to rush things. Since they had cleared up their misunderstandings, there was no need to keep playing games. He reached out and stroked Lucas' hair, saying, "You continue. I'm going to the study." Lucas also put down the controller and said, "Are you going to work overtime? I'll accompany you." Leo didn't refuse. There had been so many things going on recently. Lucas felt that sheerway technology was moving forward rapidly under Leo's leadership, but the big steps had obviously exposed its shortcomings. The shortcoming was naturally the R&D department. While processing documents beside Leo, Lucas said, "Mr. Leo, there's something I need to report to you." In a work-oriented and decisive manner, Leo said, "Speak." "When you talked to the R&D department supervisor today, I saw him off to the elevator when he was leaving. He asked me a question." Leo looked at Lucas and waited for the rest. At that time, the R&D supervisor asked, "Lucas, are we in the R&D department so useless that it makes Mr. Leo so worried and he tries every means to recruit people everywhere?" After hearing this, Leo fell into silence. Lucas said, "The morale of the R&D department has been very low recently, so problems occurred when we were integrating blcommunity. The previous incident of being blocked by others in terms of technology has always made the R&D department feel inferior. Now the senior management is eager to find a technical leader, which seems to imply that they think the R&D department is too weak. How can the morale of the R&D department not be low? Leo tapped the touchpad of the computer with his finger and said, I will comfort them, but I'll still keep looking for talents. This is the characteristic of technical work. One can learn how to get along with others, but there is a ceiling in R&D. To reach the ceiling, it not only depends on hard work but also on talent. Lucas couldn't help but think of Nolan again. Nolan was the one who had reached the ceiling. Where could they find a second Nolan? Lucas always felt that it was extremely difficult to find people, even more difficult than expected. It was as if someone was causing trouble. Lucas inexplicably thought of Thomas. Could there really be someone causing trouble? While he was thinking, he suddenly heard Leo ask, is it true that the R&D department supervisor asked you a question, or did you make it up? Lucas laughed and said, how could I make it up? Leo said, I thought you made up a story to remind me to comfort the R&D department. Lucas admitted, but I did add some embellishments. He was very good at adding embellishments and fabricating stories. Leo tapped his forehead and said, not bad. You're starting to influence my strategies indirectly. Lucas said righteously, I'm giving advice in a way. The two of them worked together in the study. It was the same as when they were in the office, yet somehow different. As night fell, Lucas finally felt a bit sleepy and couldn't help yawning. Leo told him to go wash up and rest. Lucas asked, Mr. Leo, what about you? Stop working too and go to bed early. Leo said, you go first. I'll finish soon. Only then did Lucas walk to the guest room he'd been in last time. As usual, everything in the guest room was well equipped. After taking a shower, he put on soft pajamas and quietly returned to the study, only to find Leo still inside. Lucas thought for a moment and went to the kitchen. When he came back, there was an extra cup in his hand. Hearing the knock on the door, Leo looked up and saw Lucas standing quietly at the door, holding a cup and smiling at him. The young man, fresh from the shower, was still damp. His hair hung over his forehead, making him look cute and docile. His fair skin seemed even more delicate because of the faint moisture. With his delicate features, he was stunning at first sight and melted one's heart at the second. Lucas walked in slowly and handed the cup to Leo, saying, Mr. Leo, I brewed a cup of milk. It can help you sleep. There were still tiny water droplets hanging on one side of his neck, sliding into his slightly open collar as he moved, creating a charming and ambiguous scene. Leo looked at the slender wrist exposed from Lucas's pajama cuff, lowered his eyes, took the cup, and glanced at the contents. He thought Lucas's wrist was even whiter than the milk. Under Lucas's expectant gaze, Leo took a sip and said, it's good. Lucas, smiling with his eyes curved, was sweeter than the milk. He coaxed like he was talking to a child, go to bed early after drinking it. Suddenly, Leo didn't want to go to sleep, nor did he want to say good night to such a sweet Lucas. He deliberately said, I still need to read for a while. A look of distress flashed across Lucas's face, and then he said, then I'll stay with you, Mr. Leo. After saying that, he sat down beside Leo. A warm, damp smell mixed with the fragrance of body wash wafted over. Lucas sat beside Leo, putting his feet on the edge of the sofa and hugging his knees. Seeing that he was only wearing pajamas, Leo picked up a blanket from the side and wrapped him in it. Lucas poked his head out of the soft blanket and said with a smile, it's so warm. Leo stroked his hair and said, wait a little longer. I'll be done soon. Stay with me a little longer. Lucas sat quietly beside Leo, watching him use the computer. After a while, he couldn't fight off sleepiness. His eyes grew hazy, his head drooped lower, and his chin rested on his knees. With a gentle force, Leo made Lucas sway and lean against his arm. Leo adjusted his posture to make Lucas lean more comfortably. Sure enough, the young secretary sniffed, nestled in the nest made of the blanket, leaned against Leo's strong arm, and closed his eyes. He looked very comfortable. Leo admired Lucas's sleeping face for a while, then looked at the computer and found that he had no intention of working. So he simply openly observed Lucas. His gaze uncontrollably fell on Lucas's crimson lips again. Leo had thought more than once that such beautifully shaped lips might also feel good to the touch. He slowly lowered his head and silently approached. Finally, he still stopped and instead touched Lucas's lips with his finger. A moist and slippery feeling lingered on his fingertips. Lucas grunted and moved restlessly. Leo quickly withdrew his hand and pretended to have done nothing. Lucas opened his eyes hazily and mumbled vaguely, Mr. Leo. Aren't you going to sleep yet? Leo whispered, you go to sleep first. Lucas buried half of his face in the blanket and closed his eyes again. After a while, still feeling uncomfortable, he slid down lower and finally fell into Leo's arms and rested his head on his thigh before falling asleep soundly again. Looking at the young secretary who was sound asleep and oblivious to everything, he suddenly remembered a line from those domineering CEO novels. What a little temptress. Benjamin has been rather unlucky recently. After breaking up with Thomas, his resources at school significantly decreased and a project quota that he was sure to get was also blocked. Then he also suffered a setback at back.And. Nolan flatly refused to let him cooperate with the enterprise. While other teachers in the college were making money from enterprises, he kept hitting walls. He was frustrated in both love and career. It was really bad luck. At first, he had hoped to get connected with Nolan through Thomas, but unexpectedly, nothing worked out and he ended up with nothing. Thinking of this, Benjamin suddenly froze. He remembered that when he went to see Nolan last time, he mentioned the painting and there was a brief look of confusion on Nolan's face as if he didn't know about the painting. Associating with the fact that Thomas broke up with him soon after, Benjamin began to wonder. Could it be that Thomas didn't deliver the painting to Nolan for him? The other person is more powerful than you. Whether it's social status or wealth, they are far ahead of you. You won't be able to catch up even if you work hard all your life. Lucas's words appeared in Benjamin's mind. Just when Benjamin started to have suspicions, another thing happened. One day, 2 lawyers suddenly came to the college and asked to see Benjamin. The administrative staff in the college office had never encountered such a thing before. They asked the lawyers in detail what they wanted with teacher Benjamin. The lawyers calmly said, "Mr. Sia is involved in some civil issues. We are entrusted by the client to deliver a lawyer's letter to him." The lawyers were gentle and polite. They contacted Benjamin through official channels directly and they handled the matter flawlessly. The college staff had no choice but to call Benjamin and let them meet in the meeting room. The lawyer put a stack of photos in front of the stunned Benjamin and said, "These are the surveillance photos near Mr. Lucas's residence during this period. We reasonably believe that you have the intention to infringe on Mr. Lucas's personal safety. Mr. Lucas is going to sue you for infringing on his privacy rights, asking you to stop the infringement, apologize, and eliminate the negative impact." Before, Lucas had been shouting about calling the police, but Benjamin didn't expect him to actually do it. No, it wasn't Lucas who was serious. It was Leo. Leo not only sent lawyers to threaten him, but also went through official channels and openly followed the procedures through the college office. Now everyone in the college knew that he was involved in a dispute. Benjamin was sure that there was a group of people outside the meeting room gossiping right now. If they saw these photos, the result was unimaginable. He would become the topic of conversation among others for a whole year. Benjamin blushed and said, "How can you do this? I didn't do anything. You were intimidating and threatening me." He gasped for breath. "You were slandering me. I was just taking a walk." The lawyers glanced at each other and smiled, saying, "How can this be called slander? We are just repeating what you have done." Benjamin's face turned even redder. It was hard to tell whether he was angry or ashamed. He said, "Don't talk nonsense." The 2 lawyers looked at him pityingly and said, "We are lawyers. We never talk nonsense." One of the lawyers took out a piece of paper from his bag, handed it to Benjamin, and said, "This is the lawyer's letter issued to you. You can take a careful look." Benjamin wasn't an inexperienced person. He said, "What's the use of a lawyer's letter? I can send one every day." Another lawyer smiled and said, "If you don't take it seriously, you can try and see what the consequences will be." They said to Benjamin with a smile, "We are the exclusive entrusted lawyers of Mr. Leo. We only serve Mr. Leo and his company. Do you know how much our hourly consultation fee is? Mr. Leo has paid us a high fee, so naturally we will handle the matter well and have plenty of energy to accompany you in this. I heard that you are applying for a fund. Just imagine if someone submits a letter of complaint when the public list is announced, saying that you are involved in lawsuits and have improper conduct. I wonder what will happen." Benjamin's face turned from red to pale. He knew that the evil capitalists had countless means to torment ordinary people like him. He gritted his teeth and asked, "What on earth do you want?" The lawyer said calmly, "We just want to seek justice for Mr. Lucas. If you continue to pester Mr. Lucas, then we'll have to meet in court." Benjamin was a bit dazed and deeply regretted in his heart. It seemed that Lucas had really found a rich backer. The affection he showed on the communication app was actually real. That president not only responded to all his requests but also stood up for him. Benjamin was so jealous that his eyes turned red, but he was helpless. He knew that from then on Lucas was really no longer on the same path as him. Lucas was going further and further with Leo reaching a height that he could never reach. Benjamin finally got scared and softened his attitude. The two lawyers asked him to sign a guarantee promising not to harass Lucas anymore. The lawyers said that if he failed to do so, this guarantee would spread to every corner of S-City University. They also gently reminded him that Lucas had photos of him and Thomas. Now that Thomas had broken up with Benjamin, he definitely didn't want the photos to appear in public. If they were exposed, Thomas would definitely sacrifice him to protect himself and shift the blame onto him. Benjamin should think twice before doing anything in the future. The two lawyers completed their task and left the college office conference room satisfactorily. However, the news that Benjamin had received a lawyer's letter still spread throughout the college. Previously, he had an improper relationship with the president's son and gained job-related advantages, which made many people dislike him. Now that this kind of thing has happened, many people are gloating. There are all kinds of rumors in the college. Some say that he was caught having an affair and someone wants to sue him. Others say that he harassed a married woman and was beaten by her husband. Anyway, in the end, Benjamin's project completely failed. Coupled with the fact that no one in the business world was willing to cooperate with him, both his love life and career were going poorly. It made him so angry that several blisters appeared on his lips. Lucas finally got peace and could go home safely without worrying about someone waiting for him on the way. He knew that as long as Leo took action, there was no problem that couldn't be solved. He felt relaxed, happy, and grateful. Leo also adjusted the strategy for the R&D department. The main focus was on appeasement. Instead of rushing to find people everywhere, he mainly devoted his energy to the integration between the former staff of blxin and Yaoi. The personnel configuration of blxin was outdated. Many people couldn't keep up with the times, but they were experienced and knew how to handle human relationships. They were just right to cooperate with the enterprising Yaoi and could act as a lubricant. Leo gave an order to the R&D department requiring them to continue to improve the existing charging module technology and strive to further improve the charging efficiency. This was a somewhat difficult but achievable goal. The morale of the R&D department immediately improved. With the cooperation of the new and old staff, they would definitely be able to complete the task. The R&D department temporarily entered a stable state, but Lucas still felt that something was wrong. Yaoi was a big enterprise after all. It had long announced its demand for R&D personnel in the talent market. There should be people coming forward actively, but no one responded to the olive branches they extended. This was really unreasonable. Lucas was not familiar with the scientific research circle. He wanted to find out what was going on, but he didn't know where to start. He didn't want to ask the people he knew at S-City University for fear of running into Benjamin. So he went to Ivy. Ivy had the same feeling. She took Lucas to have a meal with several well-known headhunters. At the dinner table, they finally revealed the truth to them. The R&D technology field was different from other departments. The personnel flow basically relied on internal referrals. It was very common for senior students to bring junior students and for friends to recommend each other. Currently, Yaoi had a bad reputation in the technology circle. It was rumored that Yaoi had high requirements and the existing R&D department was just for show. Once someone went there, they wouldn't get the corresponding support and would be excluded. It was a thankless task. The president also demanded results in a short time. If they couldn't produce results, they might be fired. The pressure was high and the environment was depressing. If someone wanted to go to an enterprise, it would be better to go to the R&D center of Bangtan's headquarters than to Yaoi. Whenever Yaoi was mentioned in the scientific research forum, the responses were all negative. Lucas could tell that in the eyes of those people, Yaoi was eager for quick success and instant benefits, not as steady as the group headquarters. Moreover, the upper-level people in the scientific research circle were also reluctant to recommend Yaoi to the younger generation, and schools and research institutions didn't promote Yaoi either. So it led to the situation where Yaoi was in great need of talents. Lucas didn't understand. Yaoi offered very generous conditions. Why was the public opinion so harsh on them? Ivy had a few more pots of wine, and several headhunters finally told the truth. In the so-called academic circle, there are academic oligarchs. If they don't give the green light, it's very difficult for others to get ahead. Even if someone wants to go to Yaoi, they can't. Lucas finally understood. He didn't expect that there were as many human relationships in the R&D department as in the marketing department. After this meal, they understood the crux of the problem, but there was still no solution. Ivy discussed with Lucas, should you report this matter to Mr. Leo or should I? Lucas said, you are the personnel supervisor. It should be you. Ivy went to see Leo alone. After she left, Lucas entered the president's office. Leo glanced at him and said, you didn't show up when Ivy was here, but now you pop up. Lucas leaned forward slightly and said, some things are not suitable to be said in front of Ivy. He sorted out his words and said, I think someone is deliberately creating obstacles for Sheerway behind the scenes. In short, someone was up to no good. Leo said, since you say so, you have someone in mind. Lucas pondered for a long time and still chose to voice his suspicion. Is it Mr. Nolan? The academic oligarchs in the R&D circle and the rumor that it's better to go to the group headquarters than to Sheerway all pointed to Nolan. No wonder Lucas thought so. Leo leaned back in his office chair, remained silent for a long time, and then said, it's unlikely. Nolan seemed cynical now, but in fact, he was arrogant. He had always been the first in everything since childhood with his own pride and disdain. He couldn't do such a petty thing. Even if Nolan wanted to suppress Sheerway, he would do it at the group level, just like when he withheld the technology last time. He would never resort to the means of gossiping behind others' backs. Leo hated Nolan, but he also knew his elder brother very well. Lucas heard what Leo said and didn't dare to comment further. He could only remain silent. The R&D department is currently in a stable state and other matters have been put on hold for the time being. But every time Lucas thinks that someone is targeting them secretly, there's always a nagging feeling in his heart. But Leo is taking no action. As just a secretary, he can do nothing about this. Without Benjamin bothering him during this period, the way home from work has been extremely peaceful. Lucas has gotten used to this peace. When he got off the car and walked towards his rental house, he saw an acquaintance blocking the way and didn't react at once. Hey, gorgeous beauty. Nolan was leaning against the hood of a sports car with his arms crossed, greeting Lucas. Lucas was startled and instinctively took 3 steps back, looking at Nolan warily. Nolan was dressed like a romantic young nobleman. The sports car behind him was gorgeous and flamboyant. Seeing Lucas' reaction, he laughed and said, are you so afraid of me? Lucas said, it's not that I'm afraid of you. It's because he's afraid Leo will be unhappy. Don't call me beauty anymore. Nolan said with a smile, I didn't. I specifically added a gorgeous in front. Lucas asked, Mr. Nolan, what are you here for? Nolan always wore a lazy smile and said lazily, I'm here to see my younger brother's precious one. Lucas said, it's impossible to communicate with you like this. Nolan pointed at his flamboyant sports car and said, then get in the car. Lucas was scared and said, no. Why should I get in the car? Nolan said, I'll treat you to a meal. Lucas shook his head like a rattle and said, no way. He looked at Nolan pleadingly. Mr. Nolan, stop teasing me. Just tell me what you want. If Mr. Leo sees me alone with you, he'll be unhappy again. Hearing what Lucas said, Nolan's face turned cold. Do I still need to care about Leo's face? He gave a cold smile. You're the one Leo cares about the most. I've always liked to snatch things from him. Now I'm going to snatch you away. Lucas was so scared that his face turned pale. He hid behind the greening tree in the community and stammered, Mr. Nolan, kidnapping is illegal. Carter kidnapped me before and his trial is about to start soon. You don't want to follow in his footsteps, do you? Nolan snorted. Who am I and who is he? Leo may be able to deal with Carter, but he may not be able to do anything to me. He stared directly at Lucas and walked towards him step by step. I've set my eyes on you today. What a shameful declaration this is. Lucas hid behind the tree, grabbing the trunk with one hand and feeling for his phone with the other. He wanted to send a message to Leo. Seeing Nolan about to reach him, Lucas had just opened Leo's chat window when he suddenly heard a burst of laughter. Nolan bent over in front of him, laughing uncontrollably. Nolan gasped for breath between fits of laughter. Wasn't that line I said as a villain just amazing? He even laughed until tears came to his eyes. It was so embarrassing. I almost broke character laughing. Lucas wanted to say that he had already broken character. After Nolan stopped laughing, he took a breath and said, don't I suit the role of a villain? Lucas looked at him and realized that this guy was just teasing him on purpose. Why did everyone like to tease him? Was it really that much fun? Lucas stepped out from behind the tree and said expressionlessly, Mr. Nolan, if you keep this up, I won't play along anymore. After saying that, he turned around to leave. Only then did Nolan stop him and showed him his phone. Lucas glanced at it and his face changed. Sure enough, you're in cahoots with Thomas. TSK, that word cahoots doesn't sound nice. As Nolan said this, he pulled up the chat history and showed it to Lucas. The more Lucas looked, the more shocked he became. After a while, Nolan asked, "So, want to come with me? I'll treat you to a good show." Seeing that Lucas still had doubts, he said, "Don't worry, you won't be the only spectator." Lucas still followed Nolan to a club. The two entered a private room only to find Elena there too. Elena was also stunned when she saw Lucas. Clearly, she was as confused as Lucas. Nolan looked at the two of them with a gentle expression and said, "You two are the most important people to Leo. I've invited you here to be witnesses." Elena quickly composed herself and said, "Chief-on, no matter what you're going to do, I think it's better to inform Leo." Nolan said with a smile, "Will he listen to me?" Elena fell silent. The estrangement between the two brothers was deeply rooted. The rift that had accumulated over the years couldn't be resolved overnight. Leo's defensiveness and distrust had become a conditioned reflex and a scar on his heart that would never heal and would prick him from time to time. Lucas turned to Ms. Elena and said, "Madam, please be patient. Let's first see what Mr. Nolan is going to do." He looked at Nolan with clear eyes, seriously and sincerely. Nolan twitched the corner of his lips, walked to the wall, and pulled open the curtain on the wall. A window appeared in front of everyone. Through this window, one could see the situation in the next room. Nolan said, "You just watch the show." After saying that, he left the room and went to the next one. Then Lucas and Elena saw his figure clearly appear in the window. They were both very surprised. Soon they found that not only could they see the scene in the next room, but they could also hear the voices from there. Nolan sat on the sofa in the adjacent room with his legs crossed, looking relaxed. After a while, another person walked in from the door and sat down beside Nolan affectionately. It was indeed Thomas. Just now near Lucas's home, Nolan showed Lucas the chat records on his phone. The messages were sent by Thomas. He invited Nolan to meet with explicit and disgusting words and said he had something to say to Nolan. Lucas thought for a moment and followed Nolan here. On the one hand, he thought Nolan wouldn't do him any harm. On the other hand, he was curious about what Thomas was going to do. Lucas recognized Thomas, but Elena didn't know who this person was. She could only look at the scene through the window blankly. This window should be one way. They can see Thomas, but Thomas doesn't know that someone is staring at him. At this moment, he is sitting beside Nolan, leaning on Nolan intentionally or unintentionally. "Mr. Nolan, I've taken care of everything as we discussed last time. Shouldn't you give me a reward?" Thomas spoke slowly, deliberately dragging the end of his words with a light and sugary tone. Taking advantage of the fact that there was no one around, he became even more unscrupulous. He looked at Nolan tenderly as if he wanted to turn into a spring stream. Hearing Thomas speak in the next room, Elena frowned and said directly, "Where did this innocent-looking schemer come from?" Ms. Elena has been in the entertainment industry for so many years. She has seen all kinds of strange people. Thomas, this kind of showy and affected innocent-looking schemer, is of a low level. Lucas sighed inwardly. As expected of the movie queen, she has sharp eyes and can see Thomas for what he is at a glance. But how did she choose someone like Layla to be by Leo's side back then? They were discussing here, and those people over there couldn't hear them. Nolan smiled and said to Thomas, "I didn't ask you to do those things. Don't blame it on me." Thomas smiled faintly and said, "Yes, yes, yes. You didn't ask me to greet your father, didn't ask me to stop Shearway from recruiting, and didn't ask me to spread rumors unfavorable to Shearway. I did all these on my own." He stared at Nolan tenderly and said patiently, "I did all this for you." He said patiently in this way, not to say forever, but at least in the short term, the R&D department of Shearway will stop developing. Without new technologies, they will naturally have to rely on you. You can control Leo. Then you can do whatever you want, right?